Hatred, though often viewed in a more negative light, is in part of what keeps us going, what gives us the ability to get ourselves from up off of the ground and fight with our bare fist when our lives seem to be put on hold, and gives us the strength to begin mending the cracks that others have left on our hearts, rebuild our confidence, and restore our faith in ourselves when others have led us to self-doubt. And at times, our hatred towards others feeling so intense that we may find ourselves wishing that the person whose hands at which caused our suffering or has brought about pain and hurt to that of a loved one pay for what they have done. But only rarely does one ever intend to destroy those to which we have this hatred for. With narcissists, though, this is not the case. Not only do they intend, they execute and proceed with fulfilling these intentions to the max, bringing as much pain and suffering to those they have hatred for. And why knowing what they hate is important in understanding narcissism in general, because many of the motivational driving forces behind the heinous things that they do to others stem from none other than the things that they hate. Their grandiose sense of being the MVP of all mankind and superior to all things that eat, shit, and breathe are an integral part in their delusional identity. When narcissists receive criticism of any kind, even when it's constructive or given to them to ultimately help benefit them, it is perceived as an attack, as it contradicts their almighty ass being above all else, viewing the person being critical of them as if they are trying to take their throne, dictator of Fantasyland Island, to which simply cannot happen. And rather than addressing this criticism in any way, they will deny, deter, or deflect the focus of the conversation, usually by means of projecting it onto you, accuse you of doing the very same thing, gaslight you by claiming that they never do this. Clearly, you were just exaggerating. And if all else fails, they will play victim in attempts to gain your pity and to make you feel bad for criticizing the lost, wounded soul, or break out into a full-blown psychotic temper tantrum as you have legitimately wounded their fragile ego. Needless to say, it is not going to bode well, nor is it going to be addressed, corrected, or even considered as something to which they need to improve. Narcissists are notorious in their pursuit of mind-fucking the sanity right out of you by punishing and psychologically torturing you with a good old silent treatment, oftentimes drawing out these heinous, mentally trying treatments till you snap as our brains register being ignored the exact same way as it does as if we were experiencing physical pain, and ultimately cave to their demands or take the fault and blame so that they get off the hook of whatever maliciousness they did that you have likely just called them out on. But heavens to Betsy, dare you even ignore one of their phone calls, respond to one of their texts in a timely fashion outside of that of a life-threatening emergency, or as much as give them the impression that they are not at the center of your universe. And it ain't gonna fly over so well for these creatures, because they can portray themselves as being built for tough all day long, but the reality is their fragile, high self-esteem is about as tough as soggy tissue paper. Having no core identity, they are incapable of self-validation. So when they are ignored or deprived of this validation that their false self is dependent upon, they can no longer maintain this sense of worth. And as a result, gives them a little knock on the door from reality and puts them face to face with the very thing they spend running their entire lives from: who they truly are. And a wake-up call from reality to a narcissist is like a chopping block castrating the fragile ego of their false self and closing the curtains to their delusional masquerade, and why they will do whatever it takes to regain and get attention that they desperately seek, crave, and need as much as you and I need oxygen to breathe, portraying themselves as to be so unfairly mistreated, go into a bout of narcissistic rage, hurling at your head all sorts of demeaning remarks and unwarranted insults, threaten to leave you, or flat out tell you that they are going to cheat on you by making claim that they have a whole list of people just lined up around the block, waiting for their turn to have a little ride on the crazy train express and cater to their fine asses' beck and call. Nobody can escape the effects of Father Time, which is why narcissists hate getting old, as it's like a slap in the face of their not being an exception to the rule, or having any control over it happening. And unlike cheddar and fine wine, narcissists do not get better with age. Oh no, they become increasingly more bitter and hateful because it requires more of their precious money to lure others in with, as their charisma and looks no longer are able to cut it. Their main sources of supply get either tapped out completely or are only there as they have brainwashed them and financially screwed them to the point where they feel like they are stuck in the middle of the narcissist river of shit and misery without a paddle. Their backup and new supply don't last very long, as they, unlike the narcissist, have grown wiser with age and no longer willing to tolerate that kind of bullshit from others, nor are they able to obtain it as easily because others don't see that they're acting like they're in their 20s, living it up and partying like it's 1999, adding a new notch to their bedpost every other day of the week when they're well into their 40s and 50s as being some kind of a catch, but rather more of a pathetic creep. As such, the narcissist becomes more hateful and resentful towards others. Because, well, obviously, it must be somebody else's fault that they went and burned all these bridges and treated people like shit, that now they must sit face to face with their own self-loathe. Because people have grown tired of them screwing them over. Which takes us to the next thing that narcissists hate: being alone. They avoid being alone as much as they do being accountable, truthful, or dependable. You know, kind of like the plague. Because being alone means sitting with themselves, and their self is the very demon that they try to remain in denial of its existence. Not only does it make them come face to face with this demon, but it is like challenging it to a duel with no sword and no armor. It makes them defenseless due to this lack of having any core identity, as their life is based off of this bullshit persona they have rewritten the narrative to so many times. There ain't no way in hell that the world's top in show bloodhound could keep up with that trail. Why they're always on the hunt for new supply, keep in contact with old supply that they haven't entirely screwed over, as well as backup supply that they have just in case of an emergency, collecting and hoarding their supply just like squirrels do nuts in the winter, because without supply, they are nothing. When dealing with a narcissist, the age-old saying, if at first you don't succeed, try and try again, you're going to want to just go ahead and chuck that right on out the window, because pigs will fly before a narcissist lets you succeed or come out on top of them. Because in their delusional hierarchy over yonder on Fantasyland Island, where they keep their head buried up their false-ass self as far as it will go, they are the headmaster and will chop the legs right off of anyone who tries to take their place on the top rung of this hierarchical ladder, so they can carry on with their delusions of being the supernova of the human race, constantly trying to one-up you, sabotage your chances of making any forward progress by leading you to believe that you are too weak, too stupid, unworthy, or incapable, make you feel selfish in wanting to do the things that you enjoy, and make you feel bad about not wanting to devote your every second into them, will intentionally sleep deprive you to bring about that hazy feeling and confusional mental mayhem, and or brain fuck you to distort your perception of reality. So there's no way in hell that you'll be able to put your best foot forward. And if somehow you do succeed, despite their best attempts in seeing to it that you fail, they will just pull the rug of achievement right on out from underneath of you and take credit for your accomplishments. Same goes for any talents or naturally acquired skills that you have, and why in just a short matter of time after having any involvement with a narcissist that you no longer partake in your hobbies or things that you once found enjoyment in doing, by their making it more of a pain in the ass than the pleasure that it gives you in doing that. And above all else, narcissists hate who they are the most, and that you are comfortable being you in your own skin, because they can pull off being the life of the party, or like they have all sorts of swagger, as long as they are the center of attention. But put them in a room alone, or in a crowd where the focus isn't on them, and they literally will start crawling out of their own skin, fidgeting, pacing, palms sweating, heart racing, and won't be able to sit still to save their life, because they cannot bear the thought of who they are, and would rather pawn off the burden of self-enmity to make you feel as uneasy in your own skin as they do, destroying the very essence of who you are, than to ever have to come face to face with who they are or look at themselves in the mirror. There ain't a damn thing that you can do to help, save, or fix that type of burden. Narcissists will eventually get served the fruits of their labor, a means of reaping what they sow, because you cannot hide from or outrun reality indefinitely. Trying to get revenge, or a way to make them see how wrong they were by what they've done to you, or make them understand how much you hurt, is futile. Because for one, the hurt was intentional, and the whole point in doing what they did. Two, they literally, figuratively, and legitimately do not give a fuck. They do not see you as a person. They don't care how you feel, or even consider that you have feelings of your own. The best way to get back at them is to simply get back your life, your sanity, and your freedom. Not as a way of payback or to piss them off, though, but rather because you deserve it. Because no one deserves what these demonic loaches who feed on human souls to sustain their delusional existence dole out. You're worth and deserve so much more. Focus on you. Fuck the narcissist.